Thank you for joining us for another episode of our series, From Vision to Victory, Like the Phoenix We Rise. I'm Dr. Raquel Williams, co-founder of Revive and Reset, and I'll be guiding today's conversation alongside my wonderful partners, Patricia Morales and Dr. Flora Yousefian Turani. This series celebrates women who dared to dream, faced challenges head on, and turned their vision into something meaningful and successful. Like the phoenix, the women we feature have risen, sometimes more than once, stronger, wiser, and more aligned with their purpose. One of the reasons this series is so special to us is that we share many of the same experiences as the women we feature. Many of us have been in seasons where we felt we had to work harder, take on more responsibilities, and felt the need to constantly prove ourselves. While those experiences build resiliency, they also create moments of clarity about what truly matters and where we want to focus our energy next. That's why we're honored to welcome Tamara Lynn, owner of Infrared Sauna Studios. Her journey reflects growth, intention, and the courage to choose your own path. As Tamara beautifully said, I know I could climb mountains, but now I choose which mountain I want to climb. And that perspective is powerful. Tamara, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So, to get started, I thought it would be important to take a little bit of time to hear about yourself, your background specifically, where you came from, and what shaped who you are today.
Thank you. So yes, I was born here, Southern California, born and raised, grew up in Downey, and I'm one of three girls. I'm the middle child in all means of that word. I fit that description completely, and I was always just trying to challenge the status quo, and that just an innate desire to always think outside the box. I started working at a very young age, trying to find someone to teach me, train me, show me how to work. And at I'm a mother. I have a 20-year-old son now, so hard to believe, but he has and will always be my world. And I have been running the Infrared Sauna Studios now for 5 years. Prior to that, I was working as a massage therapist for 20 years, self-employed, and that adventure, when I became a massage therapist, I had been working in human resources as a recruiter trainer for 5 years. And sitting in some of those meetings every day, day in and day out, I started listening closer to what the true needs of the people were. And I realized everyone needed to go take a little bit of time for themselves and to relax. And that's actually when I started my first business of being an entrepreneur as a massage therapist at that time. And yeah, so that kind of brings me to uh, 2026. Hard to believe, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's where we're at here.
So it's interesting. We're talking to someone who owns a sauna studio that was before a massage therapist. That in my head makes sense. But before that, you were in HR. And
Correct.
that's the part where I go, what?
How did where
How
did
did
that
that
come from?
happen? And so
Yes.
if you don't mind, can you share a little bit about some early passions or interests that sort of hint at the path that you were on?
So I had always been fascinated with the human body, the just how the body worked, and I was always the go-to person in my family when anyone had a pain or they were hurting in any way. I would kind of gravitate right towards them, and then sitting in a meeting one day, well, I as when I started working at the age of 14, I would climb any ladder anyone would give me. You give me a ladder, I'm going to climb it. I want to figure it out and learn it. So I started working retail in high school, got promoted up to, shift management, and then just kept on trying to climb those ladders. And I realized in the corporate world, the closest I could get to people was HR. So that was the closest I could actually be, but realized there in the corporate world that there were still a lot of regulations and legalities and things that didn't allow me to be fully present with them because I had to protect the company and I had to protect all of that kind of stuff. So I decided that at that time that I was going to pursue more of the massage as kind of like a side thing, and just something to kind of help that my heart feel a little bit more anchored with the work that I was doing in the world. And the first week I landed in massage school, I knew without a doubt that that's where I needed to be. It just called me. I felt at home. I felt at home in my body. I felt at home learning, passionate about learning about all of the different ins and outs of the massage world, and
Mhm.
truly just being able to offer a space for people to slow down, to connect, a place where people felt safe. That was
Yeah,
the biggest thing. If someone could actually be able to breathe deep and feel safe in their own body, then natural healing starts to occur. Because our bodies are made to heal themselves. They just need to be put in an environment to do so. So it just
yeah.
kind of one thing. When I first started it, it was going to just be a side hustle for my massage work. But as I was standing on a ledge, this is bringing me back, like I said, quite a few decades ago, or a couple decades ago, of whether or not I was going to leave the corporate, the salary, the paid vacation, the health benefits, all of that to do this adventure that I didn't know where it was going to land, how I was going to be able to help people, if it was going to work. And I learned there too that there were times when I was getting ready to make that leap that I was either going to that I was going to have to do it with fear, that just because I was afraid didn't mean that it wasn't right. And I chose to kind of step out in that fear and see what happened. And it just one thing led to another. I ended up getting my own spot right away, built up my clientele on the weekends. And then when those weekends filled up, I said, let me add another day. And then I added another day, and then eventually had to make that decision to take the leap away from the guaranteed salary. Well, nothing's really guaranteed, but guaranteed salary
Yeah.
and all that stuff into a world that I didn't really know what what was going to happen. But again, at that time too, it was just me. I didn't have a child. I didn't have all of that.
Hmm.
So it made that risk a little bit easier to take, I think, during that
Right.
time.
So
And
this is
then,
from HR to massage therapy.
correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. So you said something earlier, and I want to go back to that because I've heard this a lot, but I'm not. So I want you to go, if you can, just a little more detail about the importance of where you're anchoring your heart to the work that you do. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when you say something like that, how does that transfer to a typical day in the life of a business owner?
So that has been the heartbeat behind the work that I'm even doing now, is that the the space that I have created has been from wanting people to. Um, I'm so sorry. Can you rephrase, or can you ask that
Yeah,
question
of course.
again? Sorry.
It's that I think it's lovely that you stated how you anchor your heart to the work that you do, and that it comes from a place of wanting to serve people or connecting with people. And I'm wondering how that translates to you as a business owner, able to do that now, different than when you were a massage therapist or an HR person.
Person. So having the freedom to be able to make those all of the decisions, how long I choose to show up for somebody at the sauna, it's more than just like an appointment. They're in, they're out. Like my heart's intention here has been to create a space where people felt seen, heard, and known, and they feel safe. They feel like they have a sense of belonging. And as I mentioned before, it just kind of segues right into this line of work as well. But just knowing that our bodies are made to heal themselves, but they have to be given an environment to do that. And finding the saunas has created, or once I found the saunas in my own personal life and the healing benefits of the actual therapy, infrared therapy by itself, it clicked. Like something just made sense for myself and my body. And I would tell anybody and everybody that I ran into about this amazing infrared therapy. So when the business opportunity came, it was kind of a no-brainer at that point, because I had already had that heart's passion was to create
Hmm.
this space for people. And then to find the saunas were like, oh, what a great tool. And then it happened to be actually in the middle of COVID where I was given this opportunity to take the saunas into this direction. So
Yeah, and I'm going to ask specifically about that piece of it because I think it's important to highlight. But you said something again, you're saying some wonderful things, and this is multi-layered. You said the body is made to heal itself.
Right.
And we need to create an environment or be in an environment that allows for that. That is,
Right.
there's so much there to unpackage, right? And we'll
Yeah.
get to it, but I'd like to go back to how you were first introduced to infrared sauna therapy.
Yes, great. So I was on my own health journey at this point. I was, like I said, working as a massage therapist. And I kept my world really, really small, manageable for myself. I had my handwritten day timer. I had my study people. I was able to manage that. And my son, who I was a single mom for the entire time, within huge village. Okay, I did have a village of my family, my friends, his father. So although I was the sole provider in my own home, I did have support. So thank you to anyone who is listening that you guys know I couldn't have done that without you. But he was my world, but my body was letting me know that I needed that there was something off, but my labs look great. If anyone knows what that's like, when you go to the doctor, they're like, "No, your labs look fine. Something else is." So I just kept on doing my own research on my own health journey, trying to discover things that might help my body to re-regulate and my nervous system. I was diagnosed with epilepsy in my 20s, so I do have a nervous system disorder that which makes sense why I was gravitating towards all of these slow paced environments because that calms my nervous system down. And so as I heard about infrared, I remember driving down, it was Carson there in Long Beach, and this business popped up and said infrared. I said, hey, that's that thing that people keep saying I need to go try. I'm going to go try it. And on my next day off, I went in there and I came out. I still remember it was the words I said. I go, I actually don't know what that was, but the answer is yes. Like whatever that did, whatever happened in there, I need it. And then from there, I just went on a mission to try to figure out why. What was it about my body that said yes to that? What was my body asking for? And like I
Mhm.
said, there were people, whether you're at the grocery store, the gas station, and every single one of my massage clients from that point on, I was like, go to the sauna. They would try to tip me after the massage. I'd give it back to them and said, go try the sauna. So it was just something that it made my heart beat in a different way. It settled my nervous system.
Mhm.
I just felt better. I felt cleaner. I slept better. And we all know when we sleep better, everything functions a little better. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it worked for me. So I've never been a good salesperson. But you don't have to sell it if it's coming from within. It was just me sharing my experience with them, and the owners of that Infrared Sauna of Long Beach is what it was called. They used to call me the referral queen because I would send anybody and everything. They're like, "Where are you getting all these people?" I'm like, "Anyone that'll talk to me." I'm like, "Go over here. You need this." So,
Mhm.
so yeah, that's how I found it for myself.
Yeah. When you talk about that, this type of wellness activity resonated with your nervous system, um, that is so important that you're in tune with your nervous system to know what you need to heal. And so when you think about, walking into that infrared sauna studio and first feeling like this is what I needed, my nervous system is telling me to slow down. What were some of the inner signs that you got that told you this is the direction that I need to move?
Is it on the business side of things or more on my health journey?
Health journey or
Health
business,
journey.
whichever you feel like came up for you as you were first thinking like, this is it. This is what my body
This
needs to heal.
is honestly that first session I went in there, I did feel it. I am a bit of an empath. That's why massage therapy worked for me as well. So my body going the sleep, I will tell you that's it's a different type of sleep. You're lighter, you're cleaner. And then once I understood the science behind it, it just made sense why my body was and having to been on medication for so many years because of the seizures, well, that also causes some other side effects and stuff that weren't able to be detected in lab work and that sort of thing. So understanding that my body was able to now detox and all of that made I felt lighter, I felt cleaner. And that's when they say your
Mhm.
body keeps the score. Trust your gut. We have to be our best advocates. Sometimes they say we're the best doctor for our own body. Our bodies will
Yeah.
tell us. So it was almost like which there's a pattern in my life of this, but the cart before the horse. It was like I felt it before I understood it. I walked in, I was like, aha, that's what it is. And so that's how I even with the current business, I'm like, if I could just get you in the door, because if your body needs it, it will tell you. And so it's not like I have to push it, just kind of introduce them to the experience of it and then take it from there.
Perfect. When did the idea of owning a wellness business first enter your mind?
So actually, my son was about 10 years old when I first started dreaming of having my own space, like a place of peace for people. I worked the first 10 years in a hair salon as a massage therapist, and then I moved it into a chiropractor's office. So for the past 10 years, I had been working directly with a doctor. It was great. We worked really well together. I was able to manage my own business doing it that way, but I still there was I knew I could only serve one at a time, and I knew that more people needed a space to rest and heal. And so I'm when I say dream, I'm a daydreamer. So I need my solitude to dream. But I'm more of like the visionary. So I used to envision a place of rest, even as a massage therapist. And so I started looking into it then and tried, like, where do you go when you have a dream about a business? And I discovered the Small Business Development Center, SBDC, which is part of the SBA, the Small Business Association. And they it's a free service to anybody, whether you have a dream, whether you have a job, whether you have a business, you're starting one, you're trying to get out of one, all of that stuff. They've been a really good resource for me even now currently. But at that time, I took this dream that I had of opening up my own place, and they wanted to put it in an Excel spreadsheet. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. So I ran for the hills. I said, I'm not putting, oh, you want me to work like that? I just wanted to dream. I just wanted to, have the vision. I don't want to put it in a spreadsheet. But the reality of what really showed up for me then was the amount of work that it was going to take, and knowing where my son was, and he was my world, still is. But that my heart and attention, I couldn't give it to the business at that time. So I just kind of left it on the back burner, but it never really left me alone, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So
So
I,
if I'm tracking, when your son was about 10 years old, you had this idea, this dream. And I love that you call it, I was a daydreamer,
I'm a
where you had this
daydreamer.
vision of a place for peace for people. And then that's what prompted you to go to the Small Business Development Center. Is
Correct.
that local city or is that a state
There,
level?
it's per city. So I was in LA County, so they have one for LA County, and one of their locations was at the City College, Long Beach City College, and then they have one
Mhm.
in Inland Empire. So it's
Okay.
all different market
So
sections.
that was your initial stopping place to get more ideas on like how can I make this dream more of a reality? And then when you
Right.
saw the Excel spreadsheet, you're like, wait a minute, this is like for real, a lot of
This is
work. And with a 10-year-old, I can't do that right now.
right. It was going to require more of me and the time and investment than what I was able and wanting to give at that time. So
Hmm.
just kind of left it alone. And then life kept happening, and then and then my son was 15. It was actually during COVID, when everything shifted for all of us. So including him, including me and the business and all of that. I don't know if you want me to go into that part of it
Yeah,
yet.
absolutely. That's actually
Um,
the next question is how this opportunity came up. So then now, 5 years later, COVID.
COVID is
And
happening. So the business had opened up or I started going in 2018, to the Infrared Sauna of Long Beach. And then COVID happened in 2020, when we were closed. It was 2019 when COVID started, but 2020 when the businesses were closed, and the Infrared Sauna of Long Beach had to close their doors. And being a 2-year-old business, that is detrimental to anybody if you try to close their doors after putting in that much work in the first 2 years. So they were unfortunately unable to recover. And in that process of them coming to that realization is when they picked up the phone and called and asked if I was interested. And so in taking over the business, whether it be there in Long Beach, and then I couldn't open a business. The city wasn't going to allow us to open. And so we had to kind of wait that out even a little bit longer. And
mhm,
then at that same time, the chiropractor that I was working with was also doing some changes and was going to bring in another doctor, to help
mhm.
take over some of his load because he was going to work on retiring. And that's when I raised my hand and said, what if I bring in saunas instead of another doctor?
Mhm.
and he agreed. So it's
Tamara,
kind of
I'm curious about if you could just take a step back. When you said they called you to offer you the business, uh, what prompted them? What was it about you? Was it that you were the referral queen? Was it because you were sharing that I'd love to start my own business? How did they know to connect with you?
I think if you were to imagine like as a business owner, or if you were going to be passing along something that you care deeply about, that was their baby. They poured so much into it. You're going to reach out to people who you think might be as passionate as about that. And because they have a track record of me sending anybody and everybody, they knew that it wasn't going to, I didn't need to be convinced of the healing benefits of it. And I do believe that that was one of their big deciding factors on who to call. And even as I was getting to know them and seeing their healing space, I had already reached out to them like a few months prior to see if they were interested in turning one of their rooms into like a massage room where I could go in there even a couple days a week
Hmm.
and do all of that. So we had already kind of touched on some stuff, and we would always talk about small business, and I
Yeah,
help with any tips I had. And he was sharing things that he was going through there. So just the small business owners, we connected, and I feel like that
yeah.
was kind of what
So
prompted them.
I'm so glad that you highlighted that piece because it wasn't just a matter of it was random or it was just because, you were a client that came in. It sounds like it was your relationship that you built with them. It was that you, one, reached out to them for partnership. So it was this ongoing conversation, this effort you put forth, even though you knew you weren't ready when your son was 10. But then 5 years, that relationship you developed over time led them to learn to trust you or feel like they could hand over this baby to you.
Yes, I do believe that when you know it's hindsight, right? You look back, it's like, wow, all those things you thought were maybe a waste of time or that they didn't matter, that they all kind of come around. It's like, oh, that's why all of that was happening in my life at that time. Never would I have ever wanted or dreamt of anyone having to give up their baby or what their blood, sweat, and tears of 2 years
Yeah.
to give that up. So that, yeah. But to one of the things that was really important to them was that all of their clients' prepaid sessions would be honored. That mattered to me because they cared about the
Mhm.
integrity of their clients. But they were also entrepreneurs, rookies, just like me. And so there wasn't a lot of it didn't come with a manual. Let's just say no one taught me. The only thing I knew coming into this business was how to sit in one. I literally have had to figure everything out from day one to what does a business plan even look like? How do I like everything from the very beginning.
Okay, so let's pause there because
Okay.
you also mentioned that this you started your business around COVID, which is when people were
Yeah.
shutting down,
Everybody went
not
out. I went
not
in.
starting up a new business. So when was that moment where you knew this is the right move for me? I have to do it now.
Well, I'm glad we're going to back up just a little bit too, because when my we were closed for 6 weeks because of COVID. As a massage therapist, I wasn't able to work, and then they released us back to the office as long as I was working with a doctor at that time, which I was because I was in a chiropractor's office. And when I came back, I was then he let us know that he was in the process of making some changes, and I had already had this thought of wanting to kind of get out of the clinical setting a little bit. I had my own space, my own room there, but I wanted to kind of remove myself from the bright lights of the clinical office.
Mhm.
And that exact day, I still have it saved in my phone. I was out looking. I've always looked for rent signs. My mind was already watching, like what's available before COVID, just kind of looking, going, what's out there? What could I do on my own? And then after COVID happened, and then realizing the chiropractor was going to be making some changes, is when I started looking even more. And I saw that I was like, could I put a sauna in this one space I was looking at, kind of right down the block from where I was at? I asked, can I bring a sauna in here, even if I had one massage room and one sauna? I could start there. I was totally fine with that. And literally on my way out of that appointment, walking to my car, I received a phone call from the owner. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to have a couple saunas and doing this differently. But it all just made sense. And it's kind of hard to know. It's like it clicked, and it was
Mhm.
scary. None of it said, oh, this is going to be easy and all of that. I was like, oh my goodness, I think this is this sounds and feels right. And
Hmm.
then, yeah, and then we just started talking more on the business side of things. What would that actually entail?
Yeah.
And
So it sounds like, again, the decision was more of like an instinctual felt experience, like this feels right. And I'm
yeah,
wondering if you're willing to share those initial fears or uncertainties right before you made this purchase, even though your
yeah.
gut said, let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, 100% commitment is it's not my strength when it comes out. I was like, wait, I got to sign for 5 years. All my what ifs. I even have a children's book that a mentor gave to me a long time, Bruce Moose and the What Ifs. What if this? What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if? What if? What if? And I because I had been my entire life using being weighed down by all of these what ifs, I felt like this was a chance for me to just like jump in the unexpected, the unknown, and whether I was fully ready or not, that I could learn along the way. And when I looked back at some of the other things that I had done in my life, and even when I left corporate America to start the massage, it was very scary. And I also in that season I learned a lot that you can be afraid and do it anyway. You can still be like, this is so scary, and still do it. Where I was almost waiting to be like, oh, I can only if it's right, then I won't be afraid. That wasn't true for me. I had you acknowledge that I am afraid and I'm going to do this anyway. I'm going to go face my fears of, yeah. And I mean, everything shows up. What if I'm not enough? What if I'm too much? What if um, yeah, what if I get sick? What if all these things were still there? So it wasn't like it was like but internally the peace came from knowing that I was on the right path and that
Mhm.
you could always change direction too. Like it's sometimes everything when you
Yeah.
sign on that dotted line, it feels so like solid, like you can't make any adjustments or changes. But I had to keep, well, and 10 years of my therapy too was going into places like, oh, now you need to go exercise and put all this stuff into place that all the information I've been gathering of learning to face my fears head on. And
Yeah.
um, yes, and not and asking for help. Like that was something because I've always been very hyper independent, and getting to and not just afraid to ask for help, not even knowing what to ask for if I'd never done this before, but knowing once I did quit, stop being afraid to ask, a lot of doors would open up. There's a lot of free resources available for people, but knowing going into it that I was all in and. Um, financially, everything. I just put all my eggs in that basket, and it is scary. And even it's 5 years later, but I'm still like, oh, did we just do this? Like, what just
Right.
happened? Yes,
Well, it's interesting once you put your mind on something and you make a decision. It's like you said it, my mind was already looking for it. Like all of a sudden, all these opportunities come up that you'd wondered where were they? But they happen
right.
once you set your mind on, I'm doing this.
Right, and putting the energy out there and knowing that that is the direction that like your heartbeat. So it I think it kind of clicked in that moment. But again, I was not prepared. It was in the middle of COVID. No, everyone
Okay.
thought I was crazy. My family's like, what is that infrared? What are you talking about? And it
Mhm.
wasn't very well. It's so much more well known just even in these past 5 years than it was then. So it was still a little off the grid, which is have a pattern of that too. I kind of just do things my own way, like out of the
Mhm.
box, challenge that status quo, looking for things that um, might not be out in the mainstream. That's kind of always been a natural desire for me to do those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've already touched on how you wanted to create a place for peace for people. And you talked about how even though when you transitioned from HR to massage therapy, you had your own office room, but now you were really looking to having your own space. So can you talk a little bit about the vision that you had for your business when you first took it over?
When I first took it over, it really was wanting a space where people could heal, where people can rest, where their spirits felt safe, where they um uh I always would say I just wanted a place where people felt seen, heard, and known. And what I didn't realize in doing that, if you have to represent, you have to kind of step into that yourself. So I could no longer be private and stay to myself and have all my veils and masks on if I wanted everyone else to kind of show up and just be authentic um, and just have a place for their body to reset and meet them where they're at. Because I said, like I mentioned already, there's our bodies are made to heal, but they need to be given an environment. So turn off the noise, unplug from the world, be still, be with yourself, listen to the small voice, get into prayer, let your body release whatever it doesn't need anymore, and then you're going to be better for your people, your community, your family, your loved ones, if you've been able to take some time to heal yourself. So it was kind of more of a like, hey, take this and go spread it. And let, yeah, because and then if we're all sleeping better, then we're all a little bit nicer on the back end. Right.
True. That is
Yes.
true.
Let me
Um,
ask you a quick question, Tamara. Going back to some of the things that you have kind of mentioned, you talked about how you found a lot of health benefits for the infrared sauna. And with your research that you did and things like that, what are some of the benefits that you found?
For the main one was helping us to detox our bodies. It helps to restore our body's natural detox pathways. So heat, like we were talking about a little earlier with the infrared heat, helps our body enter into a parasympathetic state, and so that is where our body is like rest and digest, and so that your body can actually let go of stuff. So and circulation. It helps the blood flow get through your body. And our bodies only have three ways to eliminate all of the heavy metals, toxins, and things that we no longer need. And it's sweat is one of them. So it's urine, feces, and sweat. So I always tell people we're a sweat shop. That's what we're here for. But it's how we feel after we do it, which is why people continue and just recovering like sore muscles and tension. That's why even as a massage therapist, I would work all the knots and all the tension out, but then 3 days later, that's going to end up settling back into the same spot. So the sauna is a great way to kind of help flush that and get all of that lactic acid and built up in the tension built up in the muscles. That way, and the stress reduction, all of those things help to reduce your stress as well by and then your skin. Everyone says it's the glow that you know because you end up flushing out all the toxins, and it just helps our skin to be brighter and cleaner and all of that. So those are some of the main health benefits that there's a science behind the infrared that I'm so grateful for. So people know it's not just fluff. Especially when we are FSA and HSA approved because of the red light therapy. So in the medical, the FDA is starting to really recognize it as a tool. It doesn't, we're not claiming for it to cure anything else, but if your body can get into a more healthier state, then healing can happen from within. So it's a tool. It's not a magic pill. That's also what some people. I mean, yeah, you can come once a month and you'll get a good reset. But if you really want to get into the healing benefits of infrared, it's that consistency of keeping your body flushing and detoxing and some of us have certain genetics that don't always allow our body to detox naturally, but it's not something that we're not. I wasn't made aware of until later on, but don't know if any of you gals, but anyone else listening, but the like the MTHFR gene that I don't know if anyone has heard about that recently, but that is a gene that does um, help stop get in the way of our bodies being able to naturally detox. And through my journey, I discovered that I do have that gene. So that's also why the sauna is made. I'm like, yes, help my body get rid of all of this stuff. And so there are multiple reasons why people use it: anxiety, depression, and people that aren't able to work out right now due to either injury or something like that. They've been able to come in and still get their heart rate up and get everything moving and yeah, and not as achy in our joints and all of that. Mhm. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for sharing the benefits. As a business owner, what have been some of the biggest challenges you faced stepping into this?
The biggest challenges have been managing my own burnout. It can be, I'm 10, 12, 14-hour days at times when you are the when you're a one-man show. Um, there's like, if anybody would have told me in the very beginning that this is what it's going to take, this is what it's going to require. In 3 months, you're going to have a flood and your washer and dryer is and you're going to have to close for 2 months. And, all the things that happened, if someone would have written all that out, I would have said, oh, no way, no way. But if someone were to ask me right now, would you do, I say I would do it again. Not because it was easy, but because there's always going to be those challenges that are going to come up. And, there were things like I said, the only thing I knew coming into it was how to sit in a sauna. So I'm self-taught behind the scenes, but there's resources. Ask, ask people. You ladies came in through my door with Patty being the first one. And so we could talk about, business. So how do we start? Where do you start from? And so really bouncing ideas off of the community of people that have, and also back to that a little bit. The one thing that I do love about the community that we have built here is the organic part of it, because I literally didn't have the resources. I don't have the skill set to go out and do the marketing that everyone says is so important. You got to get out, you got to do the marketing. I was like, well, I don't have the time to make a post. I have to show it. I'm like, am I going to make a post or am I going to be present? I have to show it for the person that's in front of me, not trying to get the people that aren't here yet. So it was a very fine line for me to try to figure out how to balance those two worlds of not necessarily having everything, but then the people who have found it are specifically looking for it. So I don't have to convince them to try. Someone already has, whether it was a podcast or a neighbor. Someone said, go look for an infrared place near you. So then it was just my job to kind of walk them through the experience. But and procrastination is very expensive. That is
Yeah.
one thing that I would say to any business owner. Procrastination is, because there's things that you're scared to start. I'm scared to get out there. I don't know social media. It's not, I didn't have it in my personal life. It can be very intimidating for me. And so, but there's some setbacks in that. If I keep procrastinating, then there's not going to be that growth. And yet at the same time, because of that, I've been able to really deeply connect with the people that are coming in, which has been the heartbeat behind the business the whole time anyhow, is to really make sure that people feel seen and connected, and a sense of belonging. I think that's huge.
I really appreciate this response because it shows the truth behind doing something that your heart says I want to do, and it's something I want, like I really feel it's the right thing to do, and yet it's still hard. And there are those hard moments that you do have those like regrets maybe that creep in
Yes.
because you're exhausted. And so I appreciate your honest response to this question because it speaks to how difficult it is to find that work-life balance even when you're doing the right thing.
Yeah,
So in your reflection, as you're looking back to those really tough experiences that you weren't expecting, how did you push through?
how did I push through? So a lot of prayer. There were many, many, many times that I was going to throw in the towel at a particular crossroad where we were 2 years in, after I had opened in Cerritos is where I had started. And at that point, the chiropractor was officially going to be retiring. And I went to the city to go do my own business license with just the saunas, just myself. And the city of Cerritos said no. I was not going to be able to continue operating a sauna studio there. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm blood, sweat, and tears in those 2 years. I wasn't expecting a hard no like that. And so I went out to all of my clients and said, hey, listen, this is what's going on. If you guys want a refund, I will give that. And if you want to give me a couple months to figure out if there is a plan B for us to wait. But 95% of everybody who had prepaid packages with me said, I do not want a refund. You better not leave us. We need you in this community. You go do whatever you need. And in that, and then at that point I knew, because in those first 2 years, you put everything into it. And I was out of my resources. I knew I was going to have to find a place that was already built out. And at this point, I didn't even think that I would qualify on paper because I'm like, how do you tell them I'm building a business, but I don't really have any money yet, but I still have a dream. And that's really what I did is I found in my search, I found this place in Los Alamitos that was already built out and a private owner. I knew I was going to need that too because it was hard to um, uh, what is the word I'm looking for? Confirm things on paper for me at that point was it's kind of hard to prove on paper where you're at when you're first starting a business like that. So when I came in here, the owner, he saw me and he said, I believe in you and I believe in your story and I want you to have this space and I'll do whatever I can to get you in here. And that's I absolutely needed that. I don't think I was going to be able to qualify without that. So doing a move in those middle of the 2 years in, just like Long Beach had to do, they had to make that big decision of what do we do after 2 years. And at that point, I just thought, no, I'm going to throw in the towel. And there was even this one specific day I said, I'm done. I've given everything I can. And there goes the phone and saying, I just went over here and I tried one of these places. They say they're a sauna studio, but they don't have the oils. They don't have the towels. We need you in this space. You better not leave. So it was just those moments where this community that I built were pouring right back into me and waiting patiently for it. And it took 3 months for me to be able to find a spot. And I relocated here to Los Alamitos, and I had to grow into. I never thought I needed this much space. When I landed here, I had 2 saunas. Now we have 5. I didn't know if I was going to make it past the first week, let alone the first month. But when I look back at that too, I see young families that are looking to wait to be ready to start their family once it makes sense on paper, or when you're going to buy a home, or when you're going to get married. Make sure you put all these. If we all wait until all those things, then it's not going to happen because we're never going to be fully ready. I remember if they say, oh, this is how much it costs for diapers, this is how much it costs for daycare. You're like, I can't afford that. But somehow you show up and you do. If you step in, the resources will come, and people came at the right time. Even when it came to expanding my sauna, the amount of saunas that I had here, here comes someone walking through the door saying, hey, a place just closed in Newport. We've got 3 used saunas. I was like, the same brand, the same everything. So, but that solution wasn't on the paper. I didn't know how I was going to get that. So it does require a lot of faith, just a leap of, hey, catch me if I fall and dust me off when I do. So you just kind of go in a little blindly. I think if I would have, and I know because procrastination is a thread in my world as well, that if I would have kept waiting until I had check marks in all those boxes. But COVID and that opportunity kind of pushed me to the edge to say, hey, now is the time. But I'm looking, my son was a freshman in high school. He wasn't quite launched yet, although more independent than he was when he was younger, didn't need me as much. But it was I was still juggling the two of those worlds. And now he's off doing his own thing, and he got to help watch me build it and help support when he could. And yeah, so that helps.
Yeah, yeah. So as I'm thinking about your journey, and it's been how many years now, did you say?
It'll be 5 years on April 3rd is when I officially
Wow,
launched. Yeah,
congratulations.
thank you.
How has owning this business helped you grow as a leader?
As a leader, I would say it has allowed me to be able to meet people where they are at, not expecting. Gosh, let me see. How has this uh, as a leader? Let
This
me
is a
back up
tough
here.
question because I don't think you recognize or see yourself as a leader.
As a leader, right? Because you got to lead by example. And I feel
Yeah.
that it was when you have getting over trying to have everything figured out. Like I am who I am. Like I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to keep showing up for people. And as I have also um, been able to hold space for people when they're not at their best, and they're able to hold space for me where I feel like that the authenticity of that, of not waiting for me to um, like showing up in my fear of not having all the answers. And I'll be honest with you, the leadership part of it has been hard as well. Like even in trying to find when are you ready to hire that person, and what is that, what skill sets do you want that person to have? But I have found it very hard to train someone on something I'm still learning. So I'm actually in the middle of it. Like, how do you lead, and learning to lead wholeheartedly within myself, meaning, Tamara, when was the last time you did your self-care? When was the last time work-life balance, and trying to put into practice all of those things so that when I step into leadership, into a leadership role like that, that I don't feel like a hypocrite. Like, hey, well, what about you? And you got to, so really trying to implement the things that I'm holding space for people that are committed. They come 2, 3 times a week, and wanting to lead by example in that way of, yeah, if that
Yeah,
helps.
this question is pretty tough for most people, particularly women. But if you ask the friends that surround them, they could point out the leadership skills. As you're sharing your journey, one thing that keeps coming up is how people, you said 95% of your clientele said, we don't want a refund. Okay.
Right.
They,
Yes.
they don't want it because of their relationship with you. So when you said part of growing a business is social media marketing, you know, getting on TikTok or Instagram, but you're only one person and your preference is to be present. And so even though you have said a couple of times, I need to lead by example and I need to get better at that, clearly you're doing something correctly because you're so present with your clientele that they don't want to see you go. They're willing to give you time and support where they can
Where
to
they
keep you
can.
going forward. So I think that speaks to some one of your leadership skills is capacity to be present and really attuned to your clientele.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for seeing it. And in some of the years of therapy, one of the books that really stood out for me was Strength Finders. And it's a little small book. There's a test in there, and it helps you identify what your 5 strengths are, and it also helps identify some of your weaknesses as well. But I think as a race, our and our minds as human beings, that we tend to put a lot of energy on our weaknesses. Like, oh, I need to be better at that. Why am I so, I have a lot of social anxiety. And here I am running a place like public people. And but when we put all of our energy into our weaknesses, then our strengths aren't being fed and served. And so, like, one of my top strengths is empathy, and that's my number one strength in this book. But that's also why massage therapy worked for me. But when I met up with some of the corporate people, before I even told him what my strengths were, he said, "Well, empathy doesn't pay bills," and I'm like, "Hmm." Well, I don't know if obviously we've got to pay our bills, but if I would have listened to him and tried to step into some kind of other role, I would have taken the heartbeat out of what I'm doing. Did it mean that it's going to grow slower? Probably. But with more intention and more purpose, and that's the heartbeat. That's what's going to keep me going, and actually fill my heart if I'm doing things that matter to me rather than just make sense on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we're getting towards the end of our interview, I still want to ask this really important question for women who are considering buying or starting a business but feel afraid. What advice would you give them?
If you do not have to build it like everybody else, that's one thing. And you you do not have to have everything figured out before you start. If you have the desire, if it's in your heart, like if it's part of what, then that's most likely your gift to the world. How it's going to come into fruition is, but you won't know until you just like dip your toe in, test the waters, and don't be afraid to do it alone, because when you step into alignment, which for me, that's what success is when I'm in alignment, and I'm working on it. That was my word last year, and I'm still trying to bring it into this year, because when we are actually in alignment with our core values, with what matters to us, your people will come and your resources will be there, and those things. Yeah, so if we like, don't wait for it to all be figured out before you start. Even if you're afraid, do it anyway.
Yeah, similarly, our first speaker last a couple months ago shared how there's enough space for everyone and you don't have to do it like anyone else. You do it however it is for you. And so I love that you're saying that you really want to start something that aligns with your core values.
Correct. Yes, that's I think has been what keeps the momentum going. And I'm had to learn the hard way through this process. But also that burnout is not a badge of honor.
If you could
Ask
go
for help.
back and speak to yourself before buying the studio, what would you say?
Trust yourself sooner.
Hmm.
Trust yourself sooner because I still, even you ladies know, but even coming into this interview, it's my first one. I get very nervous, very anxious, and that anxiety, those voices, the what ifs, what if I fail, all of that slows the momentum down. So if I would have just said, I'm going to trust you, go with your gut. You know, your gut is God. That's who, just go, just keep showing up. And so if I could go back, I would like to give her a little hug and tell her to
I
trust
love that.
yourself. Yeah, you've got this. Yeah.
Tamara, you've been doing fantastic, and I'm wondering if you're okay with a quick Q&A, rapid fire question answer.
Yeah, let's go.
You want to give it a shot?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
give it a shot.
What's one word that describes your journey?
Intentional.
Yeah.
Intentional, yes.
Coffee or tea?
Tea. I've actually never, well, I did have one cup of coffee, but anyone who gets too close to me, me with too much caffeine, it would be a lot.
Are you a morning person or night owl?
Morning. It's when I get my most stuff done. I procrastinate my nights, but I'm a morning person.
A fear you had to overcome?
Commitment. I was
Oh,
like, 5 years? That's a lot. Do I really want to be here for 5 years? That kind of, so commitment, just saying that I'm going to do this for at least five. Um,
okay.
yeah.
A habit that keeps you grounded?
Solitude. I'm actually an introvert. So being with people all day, and I love people. But giving myself time to recharge my own batteries, in spite of disappointing some people around me because I'm not available all the time. Like giving myself the day of rest that I need has been huge.
Yeah, and that's sometimes what we have to do when we set boundaries and might disappoint others, but it's about what's important to ourselves.
Right. So that I can continue serving the people. Yeah.
A mantra or quote you live by?
The mantra quote. Ooh. Uh, this is so I keep saying it to myself even in this. There will always be somebody more than you. There's going to be somebody funnier, faster, quicker, smarter, thinner, heavier, all of
Mhm.
that. And so that comparison trap, I just feel like if I just remind myself, just show up who you are, like there's always going to be someone on both sides of those scales. So just to be authentic oh, that's a hard one though too, because trusting the process is my other. Just trust the process. It is a process. Trusting
We'll
that.
take those both.
Yeah.
We'll take those.
Good.
And then lastly, what's one thing every woman entrepreneur should know?
That kind of goes back to I think I touched on it just a little bit, but you don't have to have everything figured out before starting. You can learn on the go, you can learn as you go, but if your heart's beating in a certain area, go give it to the world. That's why it's there. Like there's a
Amazing.
reason for it. So, and two, like this is what I needed. It's not what I knew. And that void in my life, that need for something slow, that need for a safe
Mhm.
place, birthed the desire to bring it to the world. So it's not like I had experienced it somewhere. I was craving it. And so I said, I can't be the only one. There's got to be other people who need to be in a cave too.
I like that
So,
you call it a cave.
yes, sometimes how
You
it
know, it
feels
actually
in
does
here.
feel it does feel like a cave when you go into those beautiful rooms
Yeah, you just
for that
hide
treatment.
away. You kind of get to close the noise down, and we all need
Yeah.
that. We deserve
Yeah.
it too. So,
Tamara,
yeah,
thank you so much for sharing your personal story and insights with us. You know,
thank
I
you.
know it took a lot of courage to step into ownership and follow your vision, and that's been inspiring to all of us here. And before I completely wrap up, I'm going to hand it over to Patty.
Hi, everybody.
Sure.
So we want to thank Tamara for first coming in and kind of sharing her story, like Raquel mentioned. But also, we want to thank her because all of you guys that attended, she's going to give you guys all a free um, sauna experience for you guys to go into her studios and try it and see the benefits. We will be in touch with you guys and letting you guys know on how that process will be. But thank you very much for joining us.
Yes.
Thank
To
you.
everyone watching, may this conversation encourage you to trust your vision, embrace your journey, and rise again and again, like most of us, like the phoenixes you are. Thank you for joining this conversation. We look forward to seeing you in our next episode.